United States of America, Veterans Day, when we give thanks to God for the men and women who have served our nation throughout its history in our armed forces, many of them having made the ultimate sacrifice. Many in this room, many in this organization are among those who are veterans, and we especially recognize and thank you as well. As you'll notice, surrounding me up here are also some very special guests that we have from American Legion Post 57 from Waltham, New Jersey, and I'll be introducing one of their members very shortly. If you have a program, you will see that there's a welcome from Denise Ratcliffe. I'm not Denise Ratcliffe. My name is Doug Strike. I'm the CEO. There was a change that we made. I very much wanted to be here. I was able to change my schedule to be here. So I'm here to welcome you, and I'll be participating in the program. And one other change that we have is that Reverend Jim Knoll, Director of our Pastoral Care Services, will be leading us in our opening invocation. Reverend Knoll, I invite you to come forward.
Thank you, Doug. From the Pastoral Care Department, also a welcome. And these sacred days do something that just kind of bring us together around a common theme. And those themes are always wonderful in that they bind us in a way that's beyond words frequently. And so we find ourselves invoking the Almighty at special times like this. So let's pray together. Almighty God, you call us together this day, and you call us upon special occasions. And you call many of us to high service. We thank you for all those who have responded to your call by serving in the armed forces here in this country. For the loyalty and the devotion, the commitment, sometimes the ultimate commitment that has been given, frequently because people have responded to a call of justice and a call of doing what's right and of helping others and bringing liberty and freedom to those who so desperately need it and live by it. So we thank you for that call. We thank you also for the courage and the faith that you plant within us, and especially the veterans that we honor this day. For the courage to be able to stand in the midst of adversity, in the midst of conflict, in the midst of things that would tear at the very core of our sense of stability and safety, many of whom find themselves looking toward you for that very security that we so desperately need in times of hardship. So we thank you for all these lives and all these folks and all these names, some of whom are our very residents here at the Healthcare Center. And pray that you would continue to instill within us and inspire within us a sense of high calling in all the ways that we may find ourselves with the gifts that you have given to us, responding to you, responding to your call for sacrifice, for justice, for giving of ourselves, for that which you call us to, that high calling. Be with us now. Be with us, especially with these veterans that we honor this day, and as we certainly lift up our thanksgiving for them. Through all this we pray through Christ. Amen.
Thank you, Reverend Knoll. I would also like to provide us with the opportunity to salute our nation's flag and to pledge allegiance to it. That's behind me. I know there are many in this room who are not comfortable standing or feel unsteady. Please do not be uncomfortable by remaining in your seat while we salute the flag. But those who are able, please join me in standing. Let's pledge allegiance to the flag. And I would like to ask John Vervoort, who's the finance officer of American Legion Post 57, joining us today. If you would please lead us in the place.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Before we are blessed to have a very special patriotic ceremony today, I would like to read the names, be honored to read the names of those that we serve here at Christian Healthcare Center who have served our nation in the armed forces. Some of the names are printed on your program. Some of them are also individuals who have just come to us recently, and so their names are not included. I will read those first. If the name that I read happens to be yours, may you please raise your hand so that we may know that you are here. And in our silence, as these names are read, please know that we are honoring and thanking you all for your service. I begin with Ronald Straddle, William Kaufman, Nesbeth Blauvelt, Harold Nessler, Joseph Chifino, Donald Duff, Harry Kipp, John Manzaneo, Elmer Geltis, Arnold Ackerman, Arthur Mink, Joseph O'Dowd, Elsie Murley, Edward Reuter, Charles Herbrook, Elaine Wyckoff, William Sharkey, Milton Lickstein, Dominic Miniacci. You are welcome. Alfred Sherring, and thank you. William Patterson, Nick Brancato, Jim Aber, Angelina Breen, James Dwyer, Dale Warren, Gordon Bartlam, Eugene Neveling, Willie Steeb, Sam Van Grau, Ann Bokor, Vito Coletta, Salvatore Dimena, Leonard Herrick, Paul Japinski, Shirley Lake, George Mack, Albert Riffle, Joseph Shield, David Stuck, Leonard Van Grau, John Vanderhoven, Gilberto Rivera, Beverly Mully, John Hofbauer, Albert Serrato. Good afternoon. From the staff, Richard Chappell, Ray Finnemore, Paul Oymet, Dennis Harrison, Franz Galasso, Hamid Raji, and Sean Ryan. We have one more to add? Did I miss one? Vivian Dashiano? Dashkund. Arnold Ackerman and... Got this. And one more. Ralph Sandor. And your wife's sculpture is in the hallway right outside. We can see that right there. Ralph Sandor, we welcome you also. Let's please give an applause for all these wonderful veterans. We thank you for your service. As Americans, there are freedoms that we enjoy unlike any other country that has ever existed in the world. And we enjoy those freedoms because of your service and the way in which you put yourself in harm's way to give us our freedoms. And we give thanks to God for what you have done. And now as we continue with our patriotic ceremony, I invite again Mr. John Vervoort, the Finance Officer for the American Legion Post 57.
Thank you very much. And all these names that were read, thank you for your service. And I'd like to introduce my friends and colleagues here. From the left, Mr. Stan Wakarski, who's in the United States Army. He's our adjutant, Post 57. We've got Drew Churchson, he served in the United States Air Force. We've got Bob Panino, U.S. Army. Peter Legerfo, he is a World War II veteran in the U.S. Army. We've got Jack Turkey, served in the United States Air Force. Three more, and Tom Shuckman, United States Navy. And my name is John Vervoort, I was in the United States Navy. So Veterans Day. Veterans Day is a time to honor not those who have fought for us in battle, but in fact all the outstanding men and women who served in our nation's armed forces since its founding more than 237 years ago. Not all veterans have seen war, but the common bond that they share is an oath in which they express their willingness to die defending this great nation. Perhaps most significant in preserving our way of life are the battles that America does not have to fight. Because of those who wish to harm us, slink away in fear of the Coast Guard cutter, our Navy aircraft carriers, our Air Force fighter squadron, or our Army soldier on patrol. On May 21st of this year, the United States lost one of its bravest veterans. Army Technical Sergeant Vernon McGarry was seriously wounded during a German artillery barrage at the Battle of the Bulge. Refusing an order to be medically evacuated, he tenaciously led a small unit against the enemy's Great Western Front offensive and rescued two of his wounded comrades under heavy fire. He directed devastating fire on a light cannon, which had been brought up by hostile troops to clear the resistance from the area. He took it upon himself to destroy a machine gun position by killing or wounding all the hostile gunners with his deadly accurate fire. Only when his squad's last round had been fired was the enemy able to advance and capture McGarry and his men. For his actions, he was awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor. After the war, McGarry served in the Tennessee National Guard for 28 years, retiring as a lieutenant colonel. He also worked over 3 decades for the Veterans Administration in Memphis, helping his fellow veterans secure the well-deserved benefits that they had earned. The valor and dedication that defined warriors from previous generations continues even today. On April 15th, 2013 was a day that changed Boston forever, when 2 cowardly terrorists detonated bombs at the end of the marathon. 3 innocent people were killed and hundreds wounded. At least 15 victims lost limbs. Enter Marine Captain Cameron West and retired Marine Sergeant Gabriel Martinez. Both were among a group of wounded warriors who visited the Boston Medical Center 6 days after the attack. The 2 men, West, who had previously lost his right leg during action in Afghanistan, and Martinez, who had lost both legs, shared their upbeat attitudes with the Boston victims. One victim, Celeste Corcoran, was still naturally despondent over the loss of her legs. "I can't do anything right now," she told the Marines. "After this, you'll be more independent than you ever were before," Martinez answered. "This isn't the end. This is just the beginning." While we should all be grateful for the remarkable advancements made in military medicine and prosthetics, the fighting spirit and inspirational stories of our veterans are not due to technology. These traits come from the heart. When then Governor Ronald Reagan introduced returning POW John McCain at a speaking engagement in 1974, the future president asked, Where do we find such men? He was speaking of many veterans when he answered, "We find them in our streets, in the offices, the shops, the working places of our country, and on the farms." And many of these veterans are women, such as Army Chief Warrant Officer Lori Hill. While piloting her helicopter over Iraq in 2006, she maneuvered her chopper to draw enemy gunfire away from another helicopter and provide suppressive fire for troops on the ground. Despite flying a damaged aircraft and suffering grave injuries, she landed the helicopter safely, saving her crew. For her action, she became the first woman to receive the Distinguished Flying Cross. Women are major contributors to our military presence in Afghanistan, and many have given their lives in the war on terrorism. The American Legion has recently issued a report calling on the VA to improve its response to the unique needs of women veterans. The VA and military health systems need to adequately treat breast and cervical cancer as well as trauma resulting from domestic violence, sexual harassment, and assault. America is the home to more than 1.2 million women veterans, and they deserve our support. Ladies and gentlemen, let us always treat our 22 million veterans as the saviors of our country that they are, even when the guns are no longer shooting. Thank you for being here. God bless America, and God bless our veterans. So with your permission, what I'd like to do is just go to each of our men up here and then maybe around to the people in the crowd. Tell us your name, when you served, what branch of service you're in, and what it means to be a veteran to you. Something short and sweet. Nobody wants to hear the Magna Carta, but so I guess I'll give it a start. My name is John Brevoort. I was in the U.S. Navy. I enlisted in 1978. I was in the submarine service, and I served aboard nuclear submarines in the North Atlantic during the Cold War. And it's one of the best things I ever did in my life.
My name is Peter Jeffo. I served the whole time for 4 years as a tank gunner in the 2nd Armored Division under General Patton. You must have heard of that guy. I left the States at 41 and on our way to North Africa in a Liberty ship. After 1 year there, 9 months after the battle was finished, and our generals chased the other generals out of the country, we left from, we left again on another invasion to Sicily, which the base was back in Africa. That lasted about 38 days, and the Germans were beaten and they left. And we packed our stuff up and we went to England to prepare for the big one. About a year after the training and so forth, we invaded in Normandy. I guess you all know that story. Anyway, I was there for 4 months, and then I was evacuated because I got gangrene, bad foot. It was hopeless, so they sent me back. Anyway, that was the 4-year stretch I had, and I know some of my friends got killed there, which I miss, and so forth. But anyway, I'm glad I'm here, and you're a nice crowd.
My name is Jack Durkin, and I'm this gentleman's father-in-law. And he got me into the American Legion. I've been relatively calm in my life. I was in the Air Force, and actually I was a grunt up in Newfoundland and Greenland, laying cables on the runways during the winter. So I had a cold town, but listen, I'm very grateful for my service. I think the VA, especially in this area, does a wonderful job. Thank you very much.
My name is Bob Panino. I served during the Vietnam era. I was drafted in 1968. When I was drafted in '68,
Good afternoon. My name is Tom Sherman. I'm the U.S. United States Navy. I went into the Navy in '57. I was still in high school. I thought I'd be a smart aleck and try to avoid the draft. But little did I know, once you sign up and you raise your hand, you are committed. It's like every other veteran. I served 2 years because I was still in high school, and then I went 4 years active duty. I wound up being over in the Mediterranean, going up and down the coast, and then the North Atlantic. North Atlantic sometimes in the wintertime is a little rough. But let me tell you, I loved every minute of it. God bless America.
My name is Drew Churchson. I served in the United States Air Force from 1962 to 1966. I was what was called then an air policeman. Now they call it security forces. Our job was primarily to provide law enforcement on the main part of the base, but the biggest job there was providing security for the base and for the aircraft, the nuclear weapons, and all those type of devices that we had. The 4 years that I had there were great. There are some times that they weren't so great, but that's normal. And the camaraderie that you develop with your friends, you can't beat that. You can't describe it. I will say there is still one part of my military uniform that I can still get into. My hat.
I'm Stan Wikarski. I was drafted in '64. I got out 2 years later. I was very happy. But in the time that I spent, I had an easy job. Even though I didn't like being there, I tried to make news and send it home to the students or trainees that were in the 1st Engineer Training Brigade where I worked. I was the Army Hometown News reporter. I didn't think I did anything like those of you here who served before me and since. But when you get drafted, you do what they tell you to do. It prepared me well for marriage.
About veterans in the group here, anybody like to tell us a little bit about yourself? I'll come to you. John? Thank you for your service. Just tell us a little bit. You can sit down. You can stay seated.
My name is John Vanderhoven. I was in high school in 1946. I saw an ad in a newspaper in New York saying that they were looking for young men who wanted to serve in the United States Navy as pilots. I went to New York City for 3 days, took a lot of tests, and they said, you passed them all, welcome into the United States Navy. I served in various other areas in the country. I was drafted by the Boeing Airplane Company because I have a degree in aeronautical engineering, and we were having problems with Egypt at the time, who wanted to take over the Suez Canal. So they sent me over there to calm things down, and I mentioned to the Egyptians that we've got a bunch of B-52 bombers waiting for your response. What are you going to do? You're going to keep the canal, or you're going to give it to us and let us take over the canal and the money that it was bringing in? They said, well, this is our land. I told them, it's your land, but we were the ones that dug it up and built a canal for you so you can collect the toll booth information that they were getting. I also served with Boeing in Newfoundland, Canada, when we had some more trouble with the Egyptians and a few other places. So I was being part of the U.S. Navy, and yet I was willing to be borrowed to go different places like the Philippines and other places in that part of the world. And I thank the Lord for keeping me alive. A good friend of mine, as a Navy pilot, we were teen, he was told to go off the aircraft carrier to North Korea and drop some ammunition over the North Koreans. In the meantime, they shot at him. The engine went out on his Corsair aircraft, losing oil. Eventually, he had to take his airplane and crash it into the ocean near North Korea. He never came out alive. They looked for him, took helicopters from the carrier to find him, lost forever. Since 1951, he's still MIA, missing in action. And my wife said, "How come you didn't go on an aircraft carrier?" I said, "Well, the Lord took care of me, and I appreciate it very much. Thank you for serving."
Ma'am, would you like to say something? No? Anyone else?
My mom, Vivian Dashkin, she was a nurse. And like in July of 1941, let's say, she got a letter saying that if she didn't join, if she joined the military, she would go in as an officer. But otherwise they would be drafting her because they were taking all the nurses that they could to serve. And she spent most of her time in various camps over the country, taking care of Army. She was an Army nurse. So she took care of Army soldiers that were in the hospitals, but also some prisoners of war. She took care of them. My father served in the Army Air Force, and before he was sent over to Europe, he said to her, "If you don't marry me now, I'm not coming back." So they got married in uniform, and my dad did come back from Europe. And before he got sent to the Pacific Theater, fortunately the war ended. And they went on to have 7 children and a lovely life, and God took care of them.
Sure.
I'm a World War II pilot. I flew B-29 times over Japan. I was on a fire race that we killed 80,000 people one night. I thought I went through hell, but I was shot down on my 29th mission. A submarine picked me up in the Pacific off the Bonin Island. And that's a chain north of Saipan, which I was based. I never flew combat again. I was made an instructor pilot in Biloxi, Mississippi. And I closed up my career.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Bill Sinclair. I was in the Army Air Force from 42 to 46. After about a year and a half of training, I was sent over to Burma, where we flew the hump. We flew supplies from Burma and India over into China, as the China Sea was blocked off, and we were a great ally of China at the time. The only way of getting supplies over there was flying hump. It was a pretty tough flight over there. We had to fly over the Himalayas. But it was a job I think we did quite well. Thanks.
All right, we have a gentleman back here. Sir,
Yeah, I have that,
it's on.
United States Marine Corps. And we landed there
people in PT always tell me I talk a lot, so I'll start. My name is Elmer Geltes. I served, joined the Coast Guard in 1942. The Navy took us over and sent us on South Atlantic Patrol, anti-submarine patrol. That was not a bad deal, but we had to keep the ships, the subs underwater or sink them, one or the other. And we did a good job. So good that they sent us up to Wyckoff, Iceland for our home port. So we went from South Atlantic to North Atlantic, and we did a lot of exchanging with the Russians up there. We used to give away a carton of cigarettes for one of their jackets. We paid 50 cents for the cigarettes, and I don't know what they paid for the jackets, a bunch of rubles. But it was a great experience in my life. We would sail for 30 days and then have to go back in for fuel, go back for 30 days, and we did that for a couple of few years. And eventually I got out, and I'm kind of glad I went through it, but I don't wish it on anyone else. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Anyone else? Yeah. Sir?
I served in the Marine Corps for all during the war, and it's quite an experience.
Thank you. Do we have anyone else? This is for us to share our experiences with our friends. Well, I want to thank everybody for coming today, and thank all of you ladies and gentlemen that serve your country. Thanks for making it possible for me to be here today.
Thank you very much for, gentlemen, for coming here today, for your service to our country, Mr. Report, for leading us in this program. The stories that are told, very humbling, very, very humbling. And I will say to residents and patients that are here, as a member of the staff, someone who has the privilege of enjoying the freedoms that you provided for my family and me, but was not given the opportunity to serve. You remind us all of the rich lives and experiences that you have all had before we came to know you. To hear the raw emotion that you share when you talk about the experiences that you had many, many, many years ago, obviously still very, very clear in your minds. It's very humbling for us to hear that. And on behalf of all of them, and for those of you who have stories that you still carry in your head and in your heart, we honor you and your stories as well. They're known to you, they're known to God, and the freedoms that are provided to all of us, we all experience. So thank you, gentlemen, very much for being here today, and continue to join us. God bless you.